Call to order the Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, February 23rd, 2023. Are there any speakers related to closed session comments?
We have one speaker that will speak on the expulsion, but we'll do that in during the closed session.
Okay, so with that, the board will convene to closed session. Please clear the boardroom of any non-essential staff. And then at your leisure.
Board will now convene open session and report out from closed session. The Earl for YouTube live streaming may be found on the NHUSD Board of Education webpage. If you are joining us
via Zoom webinar and would like to provide public comment for this meeting, you may do so by utilizing the raise your hand option in Zoom, or if you're calling in by phone, please press *9 and wait to be called on. Community members may still provide public comments to the board prior to each meeting via the email at publiccomment@nhusd.k12.ca.us. There were no comments provided to the board for tonight's meeting via the public comment email address. I would like to remind the public that we will not be responding to questions posed by those making public comments. There was no action taken by the board tonight in closed session. And for moving on to the next item, Vice President Kumar will preside over agenda item 5.
Thank you, President Mishra. For now, I'd like to request everyone to please stand up and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. May I have a roll call, please?
Goodman. Khan. Mallory.
Here.
May.
Here.
Dallas.
Here.
Mark.
Here.
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 May I have a motion and second to approve tonight's agenda? So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Khan.
Aye.
Mallory.
Aye.
May.
Aye.
Dallas.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Here.
Aye.
Can I have a volunteer to read out the land acknowledgement today?
We want to open up this meeting by acknowledging with respect and love that the land we are on today is the traditional ancestral homeland of the Ohlone Chochenyo First People. We recognize and thank the Ohlone people as the original stewards of this land. Indigenous people must not be spoken about in the past context as if they left on their own accord, when the real causes were white supremacy, manifest destiny, and U.S. colonization. By recognizing we stand on the occupied indigenous territory of the Ohlone people, we recommit ourselves to listen to Native leadership and stand in solidarity with people struggling against systems of oppression throughout the world, past and present.
Thank you, Trustee Mallory, and with that, I'll pass it on to President Michelle.
Thank you. Moving on to item 60.1, which is public comment for hearings of topics not on the agenda. Are there any blue cards for topics that are not on the agenda?
Yes, we have 4.
Okay, 4. All right, go ahead and speak. I did the first 2, so the first name come up and speak. You'll have 2 minutes to speak, and then the next one, please get them. So,
Okay, first up, we have Matthew Covet, and then following Matthew will be Ann Schweg.
okay.
I think the 4 cards are actually all of us together representing Mission Valley Track and Field. And just wanted to come in here and thank the school board for the contribution to the club. As an alumni of James Logan, class of 2006, and a former athlete of Park Mission Valley, I recently began volunteering as a coach, and we've been super grateful for the facilities that you all have provided, and just really appreciative for the contribution that New Haven has done to the club. And I'm very appreciative of the club and what we believe is contribute to the USC community. As growing up here and being a past participant in the club, it's taught me a lot of life lessons that I apply in my profession today. And super grateful for the opportunity to give back to the club and back to our community.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Ann Schweg, and then following Ann will be I'm sorry, I'm gonna mispronounce your name, Ragavan?
Right.
Right, okay. That's good.
All right, hello, and good evening. My name is Ann Chang. I am a coach for the Mission Valley Track and Field Club. Today, I just want to thank the school board here, and also James Logan High School, for supporting the continued support of Mission Valley Track and Field Club. Last year, the club, we had 38 athletes qualify for national in Sacramento. In addition, we hosted the annual track and field combined events meet at James Logan High School over the summer. This meet is actually very special to our club and also to our head coach, Coach Webb. This meet is dedicated to former New Haven student athlete, Olivia Livingston. And it's an opportunity for us to bring our athletes together and address and let them know about some issues like suicide awareness, anti-bullying, let them know that if they're ever in trouble or have hardships, that there's a community for them and they're not alone. This year, we're really excited. We have a full and exciting year ahead of us for the track and field season. We're actually already in our 4th week of practice, and most of us actually came from practice just now. So we were out in the cold and the wind. It was quite chilly. But we're actually really excited for the season. We hosted our first of 2 Olympian mini clinics last weekend at Chabot College. It was an opportunity for elite athletes and Olympians to come back and show youth students and athletes how to do their events, actually do learn by doing. And so I was actually really struck by a lot of the elite athletes who came back who were James Logan alumni. And they wanted to come back and give back to the community. They wanted to pay it forward to the athletes today. So that was very inspiring, especially for a lot of our younger athletes, like 8, 9, 10-year-olds who look up to these athletes as role models. So for tonight, thank you again for your continued support. Thank you for providing, helping to provide a special community in place for our athletes to practice. Thank you for allowing them to believe to achieve.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Next speaker.
All right, following right on will be La Sowell.
Thank you, Mayor Coach and I'm really grateful to the whole team, whole club is really grateful for the MPSD's support for us. The facility that's there, we have been really able to give to the children that really matter. My daughter goes to Pioneer. She found it so interesting when she started 3 years back that she has been continuing to do it. She was one of the athletes that went to the Junior Olympics, qualified, and did 2 events in Junior Olympics. And I got inspired by her and I did my certification and started teaching the kids. And it was all thanks to the facilities and the support that the board has given us, and great community that we have created there. Our club is more of a community service driven, free. There's no charges. Everyone is welcome, and we want to give the same experience that we have had to everyone in the community. So that's our goal. That's what our head coach, Coach Webb, wants us to always keep in mind. The kids are our main goal, to build them in a way that they become good citizens, good people, are able to stand on their own feet and do good in their lives. That's our goal. It's not just track and field, it's not just a sport. We're using the sport to build that community, to feel part of the community and do good in their lives. So, thank you very much for all the support that you are given us.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
And Matt Sowell.
You told me my clothes, I didn't come to practice. I came from work, and it took me at least 3 months before I got Coach Rothman's name right. So I'm impressed by your skill there. I coached the Johnstown Mission Valley Track and Field Club, and we just wanted, there's some of the coaches on the team, parents that have athletes doing this. We wanted to come and thank the board for keeping such great facilities at James Logan High School and making them available to the community. I coached the jumps, long jump, triple jump, and high jump. Had about 25 athletes, and my athletes came from Pioneer to Yama, Searles, and I even had some junior high athletes from Cedar Chavez. We also had some athletes from Logan. As Coach Ann mentioned, we had 38 athletes qualified for the National Junior Olympic Championship last year. 3 of the athletes were students at James Logan High School, and most of the athletes were students at other schools within the district. So that was pretty cool and impressive to see the athletes work their way up through the club and see those opportunities. Just a little bit so you understand some of what these athletes are getting from the club. We have about 80 athletes that participate in the club, and we put on practices for almost 4 months, usually 4 times a week. So these athletes are getting exposure to 72 opportunities to practice. And like Coach said, there's no charge for this for any athlete. All the coaches volunteer, so that even students with limited means can participate and feel good about learning life skills, and even get some scholarships and help in going to some of the meets that cost money to, like the Junior Olympics. So it's a really great opportunity for all the young children in the community, and we're trying to really encourage and get the club even bigger during the coming year. We hope that we continue working with the high school and help to promote track and field sport of it throughout the New Haven Unified School District. In closing, we have kids on our team creating a little card. There's not 6 of them, so I'm going to present this to President Ishihara. You can share it with everyone else.
All right.
When you start looking at the pictures, you'll have you on paper slide.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right, I'm actually gonna hand it off over here so that I can actually preside over the meeting. All right, any further blue cards or anybody on Zoom? All right, thank you, speakers. I appreciate you coming out. All right, 7.1 will be topics, public comment for topics on the agenda. Do we have any blue cards?
We do not.
Okay, anybody on Zoom? All right, we will move on to 8.1. And with 8.1, we have our inaugural union president reports. 8.1 is CSEA. Do we have anybody representing CSEA to give their report? All right, seeing none, we will move on to 8.2, NHTA president report. Do we have a report? Yes. President Andrew looks like he was waiting to podium.
Thank you, President Ishihara, Vice President Kumar, trustee members, student board, Dr. Thompson. I gotta say, it's a big thanks to have this, especially trustee Gonzalez for bringing this up. Your vision of continuing the collaboration effort of our conversation by having this part of the formal agenda item of the school board. I think it's a great way to continue the conversation that we've started. We all know our paths have been difficult, but we know for these past couple of years that a conversation that's open and cooperative is the one we want to go to and continue. So I appreciate trustee Gonzalez for your vision in putting this item in place. With that note, I think I also have to say a big appreciation to the board of trustees for coming in that collaboration field to our annual CTA Al-Costa breakfast. Al-Costa is the 2 CTA regions here, Contra Costa and Alameda County. At the breakfast that we celebrate yearly, we have the occasion to hear some of the leaders in our area, Superintendent Castro, Board of Alameda County Board of Education, and Angela Norman, who's also a CPA director, as well as Aisha Wahab. So it's some folks really much involved with the community, speak some things about what we should look forward to in terms of continuing the collaboration of what we're all about in this thing called education. With that in mind, just a couple things to touch on as a report, as you know, just highlight some of the conversations that we've been sharing and working with both Dr. Thompson and Derek McNamara and others are in different areas for the specialty of those conversations. But I think one of the things that is really helpful that shows this kind of conversation is the fact that we're able to have a continued conversation to get in place a better understanding of classrooms and classroom environment. And I also have to say thank you to Jason and his group for creating that conversation. We're able to kind of get a better understanding and also places to improve the conversation. And I say that because there's one thing that we're working on, and I'll share with you. As you know, a few while back, we had the whole technology thing, and we saw the need for that. So we created a way to kind of troubleshoot with an ITOP format of inclusion of what these concerns are. We think that having that same conversation for maintenance and needed classroom repair will help the conversation, because that had been one of the missing pieces from our teachers, voicing their concern, but for whatever reason, didn't have a real conversation on how to upkeep the status. So I think that cooperative conversation will help move that along. So I appreciate that. The other thing, as you well know, special ed is a concern to all of us. And I think this conversation that we have continuing is helpful. We all know that special ed is in its place all along in terms of what they do, what they provide, and unfortunately, the resources that are so limited at this point in time. We all know the struggle when the resources aren't there. Teachers sometimes have to be the places where now that resource has come. So now they're wearing 5, 6 different hats, 5 or 6 different roles. And I'll share with you that we really need to consider some kind of way to solve that or remedy that, because I get concerns, and I'm sure you have too, that teachers in those areas are really feeling the burnout, feeling that there's hopelessness. So I hope that we can get some kind of attention for that resource and relief that they're looking for with that whole idea. The other piece I wanted to mention is I think it's important. Recently, again, we have the occasion with hate statements, and I say statements, I don't see it as graffiti, it is a statement. And I think we need to recognize that. We do that regularly, but I think one of the frustrations from students and staff, especially at Logan, is what's next. Because we can see how many times we document statements, how many times we take pictures of the statement. You know, what are we doing to really get involved in that? To kind of make an impact in those conversations. So we are looking forward to that continued conversation in that area. And then lastly, I just wanted to share the item that I just wrote up was the idea that as you know, one of our great community members passed away, and I'm hoping that I can request the consideration to close the meeting tonight in honor and condolence of Richard Valle, his family, and what he's done for this community, in particular Union City. He has been a kind of a stalwart of what we do here. I can say he's a personal friend. When I first came to the Haven, I worked with him directly with community organizations, trying to work with students who are disenfranchised with education and providing some kind of alternative for interest and providing a way for them to get back in the interest of schooling moving forward. So with that in mind, I'd like to request that that be considered for today's meeting. And again, I want to thank you for bringing this item and having it standing now, because I look forward to the continued conversation in kind of this formal format. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President. Go ahead, Angeles. Okay, moving on to 9.1. We will have a presentation today on Beyond the Bell, expanded learning opportunity program and presentation. So that will be Director Lynn.
Good evening, Board President Nisha Howard, Board Trustee, and Superintendent Thompson. I thank you for providing us an opportunity to give you an update about New Haven's Beyond the Bell program. As the Director of Student and Family Services, I am honored to be a part of this team overseeing Beyond the Bell. However, the brains and the brawn of the leadership belong to Jennifer Hawkins, our coordinator of the Union City Family Center, and Alex Maria, who is our Beyond the Bell program manager. And so I will be sharing the podium with them this evening. When the state passed Assembly Bill 185, it established the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. So this provided funds to school districts to for the purpose of developing programs and support to transitional kindergarten through sixth grade students outside of the regular school day. This initial commitment of funds was guaranteed for 3 years through the end of the 2026 school year. Luckily for New Haven, we had 2 programs, Kid First and Kid Zone, that each had strengths in their programs that would help us to meet the requirements of the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. Working these 2 programs together, we were able to develop beyond the belt and meet the basic requirements of providing a total of 9 hours of programming each day for students, which is inclusive of the regular school day, and programming for at least 30 additional non-school days, which have been scheduled during summer and holiday breaks and non-student school days, such as today for our middle schools. Even after building on these existing models to create Beyond the Bell, our program continues to evolve as the requirements put forth by the state continue to evolve. To provide more details about Beyond the Bell, I would like to introduce Jennifer Hopkins, our coordinator of the Union City Family Center.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time. On the left-hand side, you'll see the ELOP requirements set to us by California Department of Ed. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the status of how we're meeting those particular requirements. The very first one, the program plan, if you have a moment, it is attached to the PowerPoint. Take a peek at it. It is also on the New Haven Unified School District website. It was approved by the school board last spring in March. This is considered a living document and it should be reviewed at least every 3 years. We'll continue to revamp it on an annual basis just to make sure that everything that we're doing in Beyond the Bell is included in the program plan. So we've met that particular requirement. Going into some of the things, the components that are required to be implemented in the Beyond the Bell or the after school program. There is a required literacy component, homework tutoring component, as well as enrichment activities. I put, we are approaching in that area because we are continuing to build our enrichment activities, as well as strengthen our tutoring and academic component. We do rely heavily on student, staff, and family feedback. And so we did implement a survey this past fall, and we're going to be doing another one this spring. And that's a practice that we're going to continue throughout the ELOP program and the funding years that are funded. We are implementing a 9-hour instructional day. We are implementing an AM program, which is a before school program at about 6 of our elementary and middle school sites out of 9. And as Marcus had mentioned, we are also implementing 30-day intersessions. It's inclusive of summer, spring break, some holidays, as well as some non-student days for 108 school days. We are operating at every single elementary and middle school site. And of course, our priority enrollment is give priority to our students who are free and reduced lunch, but we're not capping at that. We also implement a fee-based program for students who do not qualify for free. A few glows and grows, as this was our first year with Beyond the Bell, our ELOP funded program. We have enrolled a little bit more than 934 students. We are hiring on a very continuous basis. So if you know anybody who's interested in looking for a job, we are hiring continuously. Every single time we're able to hire a person, our wait list decreases. We're really excited about that because we have hired some folks very recently. We are still in need of staff. In order to help us out with the need for staff, we have been a little creative, which is our next flow, which is high school students. We really try to recruit our high school student volunteers to complete their 20 hours of community service. For some of them, we were able to turn them into positions for our high school students as student aides. Another glow, we are upgrading our software to a ProCare system. I'm really excited about that. We'll be rolling that out next school year. We are piloting it right now at Hillcrest Elementary School to hopefully make our application process a little bit more seamless as well as our attendance process and check in and check out. Another glow, as I had mentioned previously, we're really interested in strengthening our program. This program is for the kids. We really want to make a program that is going to be best all around. So we are implementing a survey, we're getting input on a continuous basis from our parents, students, and our staff. And we'll be implementing another survey this coming up spring. So thank you for your time, and I would like to pass the mic to Ms. Allison Rowan, our Beyond the Bell.
So just wanted to kind of go over what student supports and what our day-to-day program is looking like. Our site specialists work heavily with our FFA family service assistants at their sites to make sure that if there's students that are in need of emergency services or placement for the after-school program, we have space available for them. Each school site has about 5 o'clock, and we were able to pull them all this school year. During the day, Monday through Thursday, the front half of our program is all about academic support. We usually have about an hour for them. It looks different at every site, but at every site, there's a reading time, grade appropriate worksheets, and some even take it to educational games such as word site bingo, which we really enjoy. Our second half of our program is all about enrichment activities, giving kids time to do arts and crafts. Some of our schools, such as Pioneer, has introduced archery, something that students have never done before. And so that's really, really exciting. Some of our sites have also done competitions that last a week. We've done paper plane activities, dog competitions that last a week, where it utilizes the students to break off in teams, work in groups, and work towards the goal. Like Jennifer, we also offer intercession, which is non-student days, and we run those days kind of like a camp. So it's all about fun. We do arts and crafts, again, games, outside games. We've also been able to do cooking projects with the students because they're with us for a longer period of time. In November, we actually made pies, apple pies, individual apple pies with the students, and they really enjoyed that. And earlier, Jen said we did have an intercession with our middle schoolers, and we were able to take them on a walking field trip to Bronco Billy. And beforehand, we gave them math problems, kind of did a background about the business with a piece of business needs, kind of what kind of jobs you could have. So they were able to build their own pizzas, but also interact and talk with the manager about the piece of business and get to the history of Bronco Billy. So I want to thank you for your time.
So we just wanted to give you a little glimpse in terms of what year one of Beyond the Bell looks like. And as we continue rolling along, we're beginning a plan for year 2. And so with all successful programs, we're beginning our reflection process to assess what was successful, to look at the challenges we overcame, and looking at how do we provide more and improved services for our students and families. And so thank you for your time tonight, and we are here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any members from the board or would like to comment, ask questions? President Kumar.
Thank you very much for sharing that. That was very nice. What do you think the biggest constraint is in moving students from the wait list to the enrolled tab? Is it staffing or?
Yes, currently it is staffing. It is staffing right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Sorry, can I?
Oh, yes, trustee Gonzalez.
Yeah, just for the AM service you're gonna provide in the morning. How did you know there was a need for parents wanting that?
So during our enrollment process, one of the questions that we have is, are you interested in a morning care position? And so we had that for every question on our application, and for programs that had at least 20 students or student families interested, we offered the morning program. So it was the need of the school site.
All right, I have a question. Can you, somebody tell me the challenge, what is the staffing challenge? The staffing challenge, why is it, why are you finding it difficult to fill the slots?
A lot of times it's the timing. They can't make it because they work in a lot of other staff members in the district would like to work with us, but it doesn't work with their schedule. Try to recruit at college, because when I was in college, this is the perfect gig for me because it worked with my classes. So we reached out to colleges that they're looking for better paying jobs or ones that have more hours.
Okay, And how many hours roughly would a candidate deal that?
It depends on the position they hold, but it's between an hour and a half to 2 hours.
A day?
And that's something that we're looking to potentially change for next school year.
Okay. Great. All right, seeing no further questions or comments, then thank you for your time. We will now move on to item 9.2, which is our 22-23 student achievement update. And Mr. Mathis. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Thompson, President Nishikara, Kumar, and members of the board. Thank you for allowing us an opportunity to share with you information about how things went last year and give you an idea on how things are going this year in terms of student achievement. This, as it relates to Goal 1, Action Initiative 1.3, we're going to be looking at, by we, Ms. LCP and I, are going to be looking at and summarizing the California dashboard, as well as a number of current district and statewide assessments that are kind of in process for this year. Again, we're looking backwards for the first part at the dashboard, which is released right before winter break. And we were supposed to do this presentation in January, but both Ms. LCP and I both got sick on the exact same day. What are the chances? And once we look backwards, we'll be looking forward and kind of seeing how our kids are doing so far this year. We've spoken to the dashboard before, but I want to give a quick reminder. Historically, the dashboard was meant to both look at a school or district's current performance and compare it to the previous year's performance in order to kind of help the community at large get an idea about how things are going. And they convey how things are going by assigning a color where they're at the intersection of achievement and growth or decline. Blue was the highest, and then green, yellow, orange, and at the bottom was red. Now, in order to do that, you have to have at least 2 years of data, current and a previous, to compare. During COVID, the state legislation functionally put a stop to the dashboard, given all the other challenges. 21-22 is the first year that the dashboard is kind of back in play. And as there is no immediate previous year, there is no intersection of status and growth. And so they're not doing any colors this year. And instead, they're going to be our relative strengths are going to be portrayed using basically kind of a Wi-Fi strength chart, right? Going across. This year, there was no college and career indicator. I'm sorry, for 21-22, there's no college and career indicator. They hope to have that back in place for 22-23. Quick overview. We're going to go into all of these, but it is for one slide just to kind of put all of them in one place for you. And then we're going to look at our neighboring districts. We are also districts in Alameda County. Although I said we're not doing any color, I do think, given how some of these measures are quantified, that the colors are important, because for some of these measures, like chronic absenteeism or suspension rate, being very low is very good. And it's opposite for things like for academic indicators of graduation rate, where we want as high as possible. So basically, if or whatever was really good, be it high or low, if you got a blue, second one down was green, yada yada yada, all the way to that. So that's kind of a snapshot with us about a little less than halfway down alphabetically. First thing we're going to look at is our chronic absenteeism indicator, and that link at the top will give you kind of some information on how it's calculated. I'm not going to, don't have the time to kind of go into all of that. But overall, chronic absenteeism is a K-8 measure, so you'll see that our schools on the far right, our high schools don't have a measure, it's both for elementary and middle. Generally, everybody had horrible chronic absenteeism numbers last year, mostly due to COVID and related quarantines. This includes both excused and unexcused absences. This is not truancy. This isn't people cutting school. This is people who are ill or any reason that they're not in school. In order for a student to be counted or considered chronically absent, they need to miss 10% or more of the school year. And with a 180-day school calendar, that generally means 18 days or more of absence. The next indicator is our suspension rate indicator. This is a K-12 measure. So for elementary through high school, and it counts, it's pretty simple. It counts the number of either partial day suspensions that adds up to at least 1 day, or students who have received a day or more of suspension. So it is the number of unique students that are suspended. And it's divided by the total enrollment in order to get the suspension rate. And again, our schools, we did generally pretty well, and overall we were low, which is where we wanted to be. English learner progress indicator. This is based solely on the summative LPAC that our English learners take in spring. When our English learners take the summative LPAC, they can score a 1 through 4. That's the score they get. And for the purposes of the dashboard, the state has taken the 2 and 3 levels and kind of split it. So it's a 1, 2 low, 2 high, 3 low, 3 high, 4. And with the idea that students need to progress at least one of these 6 levels each year. So that's how they're measuring growth. You can see at the school site level, we had some generally strong English learner progress with the highest at the middle schools, which can be attributed, I think, to some of the good work that's done at the elementary level with the designated English EL. And there is an academic class for ELs at the middle school, which I think is contributing to that very high score in those ones. Next is a graduation rate indicator. And this is a combination of the 4 and 5 year graduation rate. It does not count anything like some of our students with IEPs who get a certificate of completion, or students who transfer to the adult school, or students who take the high school equivalency exam. And although Logan has a high graduation rate, when we kind of put everybody together, it actually just barely dropped us down into the median. And when we look at kind of why are our alternative programs, reflecting such a low graduation rate? These are typically students who have a lot of challenging factors, and the return to in-school instruction was challenging. And although AB 104 was legislation that was really intended to ameliorate some of the challenges that our students were facing, it didn't address everything. Further, students transferring to those alternative programs like Palmy or Dakota, sometimes they went over way too late, and the hole was too deep for them to get out of. And so as a result, the district and teaching and learning under the direction of Superintendent Thompson really worked to put together the educational options department, whose sole focus is to really identify and be proactive and look for students who would benefit from a transfer to an alternate program in order to make sure that they can graduate in a timely manner. Our graduation, there's 2 links here. The graduation dashboard is kind of a visual of last year. There's charts and graphs that kind of explain what the different graduation rates for our high school programs were, breakdown by ethnicity, by program. And then that graduation results summary is a narrative and kind of explains some of them. We're not going to click into them tonight, but both could be very helpful. When we look at academic indicators, again, the only measure is the SPAC. This is the spring assessment that students in grades 3 through 8 and then 11 take. And how it's calculated is that every student in language arts and math, with the exception of science, which isn't part of this, but in language arts and math, they get a scaled score.
And then that scaled score, all the scaled scores across the district are combined and averaged. And then they look at the lowest possible score that's needed to hit the level 3, which is standard met on the SBAC. So we average all of our student scores and see how close our district average came to standard met. And our distance either above or below that is used to determine our score on the dashboard. Now, the state and the federal government are very, very interested in making sure that we are assessing all of our students. So we're not kind of taking the kids who we don't think would do too well, and we're not going to give them the test, but we're just going to give our good kids the test. They want everybody tested. And so we're held to a 95% participation rate. And if we fall under that 95% participation rate, and that is by school, that's by population, we get penalized. And California had its own penalty. Department of Education said it's not enough. You need to penalize them more if they don't hit 95%. And so the more information on what the penalty rate is for our students who don't hit that 95% is included below. The good thing is, as of last year, we did a really good job of assessing our students, with the exception of 2 populations, our foster youth. We only had 5 that were in that testing zone, and they tested 4. And so that's under 95. And then our African American or Black students with 90% language arts and 88% math. And when we look at that a little bit more closely, what it looks like that they started with they didn't have an opportunity to finish and do the makeups and all that sort of stuff. But that has been brought to the attention of site admin, and they will be on the lookout during the SBAC season when we get back from spring break. And then we go to the indicators in general. Language arts on the left, math on the right, and you can see that across our schools, there's varying levels of achievement in both language arts and math. Overall, the district is a little stronger in language arts than in math, where we have a lot of opportunities for growth. So that ends looking back. Looking back to last year. Now we're going to transition to looking to see how our students are doing this year. And we're going to start with the NWEA. And as a quick reminder, the NWEA is given to students in grades 1 through 8, 3 times a year. Our Dakota and Conley does also give the NWEA. Unlike the SBAC, which measures proficiency, the NWEA does not measure proficiency. Instead, the scores that students get on the NWEA are kind of compared to the millions and millions of scores that students across the country who have taken the NWEA. And students are assigned a percentile rate, right? Out of 100, out of 100 students, where does that student fall? Not only does the NWEA kind of generate that rich score, which gives a percentile rank, but it's one of the things I think is probably more important is that it is a consistent measure of growth. So as our students take the NWEA over the course of the year or years, depending on their score in the fall, for example, an algorithm says at your age and this grade with this score, you should make this amount of growth. And so we're able to kind of watch that over the course of the year. For our fall, and I will take a quick, it's a step forward. So when we look at our student achievement in the NWEA, we look at it in terms of quintiles. So that 1 to 20th percentile, 21 to 40, which would be low average, 41 to 60 average, 61 to 80 high average, and 81 plus is high. And what we look at is where our students fall in those 5 quintiles. And when we look at fall of 2022, and we look at reading, which is on the left, versus math, which is on the right, we can see that 65% of our students in that average, high, average, and high, which are the blue, green, and yellow. And language arts, which is a bit of a pop from the beginning of last year, where it was at 62%. And for math, we have 60% of our students who tested who scored in the average, high, average, high, compared to about 55% last year. So that's a bit of a bump. One thing we're really excited about, and this is as a result of our switch to Aries, our Aries student information system, is the Aries analytics, in which we are able to take things like NWA scores or SBAC scores or LPAC scores or whatever score I can talk Miss LCUP into putting up actually she's the one who decided. But whatever we can get into Aries, we can connect it to that student and then start breaking down and really disaggregating and taking a look at how our grade levels are achieving, our schools are achieving, our student populations are achieving. And it is really a powerful mechanism that I am going to let them click on. Now, this data is live. Take a second to load. Maybe longer than a second. Not very good. So for school staff, they're going to be, if they're able to look at this data, look at these charts, click on bars, click on graphs, and drill down all the way to student data and see who these students are. This data won't get you there. This data is all anonymous and you can't click down. But what I do want you to see is that, for example, our fall NWA reading data is there. Our overall performance. Over on the right, you can see how it's broken down by grade levels. And again, by those quintile bands, 1 to 20, 21, 40, all the way through. And then going down a little bit more, you can see that broken down by student ethnicity. And then next to that by student group. And so in that we have our ELs, we have our foster students, our 504 students, we have our CSAFE students, and we're thrilled that Aries was finally able to figure out a way to identify and map Dakota to all of this. And so we have Dakota built into this as a student population group. Homeless, socioeconomic disadvantage, for those of you who don't speak educational ease, these are students who qualify for peer reduced lunch or have a parent, don't have a parent who graduated from high school. That puts them at a disadvantage. And then finally, that last column on the right is our students with IEPs. And so we can kind of see how all of our folks are doing compared to each other. And the last one at the bottom is by school size. And if you went further down, you would have the exact same data for math. And so we're really excited about the analytics. We're spending a lot of time in Leadership Academy working with our admin and helping them to kind of see the power of this and really targeting folks who are going to benefit from the role of admin support. Now, although I stated earlier that the NWEA does not measure proficiency, which is sometimes a little hard to kind of wrap your head around, because NWEA is a well-established, generally used across the country, and a lot in California, what NWEA is able to do is based on a student's written score, the score that they get when they take it, they're able to project how that student will fare on the SBAC. So if a student scored a 200 in English language arts, they would say, oh, the fourth grader who scored a 200, you're going to score a 4 on that. That's really good. And so we're able to project or predict what how our students will perform on the SBAC. And this is really important information for our principals and our teachers, so they can really, again, go down and target some interventions and support. In the interest of time, we're not gonna hit that link at the bottom there, that projected SBAC scores. Because, but it will take you to the exact same sort of breakdown that we saw in Aries Analytics, where it will be able to see by school, by grade, by ethnicity, by group. It's a really powerful stuff. And with that, I would like to welcome up to the podium our coordinator of assessment evaluation, Ms. Rania L.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Superintendent Thompson, President Nishihira, members of the board, staff, and New Haven community. I will be continuing our deep dive into student performance on various internal and external assessments. And I'll be starting off with Literally. Literally is an online reading assessment that was introduced for the first time in the 2020-21 school year during distance learning. It scores students' reading level and growth over the school year. Students in grades 1 through 3 take the assessment 3 times over the course of the year, starting with a pre-test at the start of the school year, and then they're assessed in the fall, winter, and spring trimesters. Kindergarten students take the test once in the spring. Student proficiency targets, their proficiency targets are expected to increase each trimester, with an expected growth over the school year by 3 levels over the course of the school year. So the graph in the chart visualizes our students' reading level according to 4 thresholds. In the level 4, exceeding expectations is identified by blue. In the yellow, level 3 is meeting expectations, and level 2 is approaching expectations identified by orange. And level 1, not meeting expectations, is identified by red. In the fall trimester of 2022, 55% of NHUSD students were meeting or exceeding expectations, which slightly exceeded where we were in the fall trimester of 2021. So in this slide, you'll see links to the Literally dashboard and a results summary. They both, if you link on your own due to time, identified areas of growth for us. The areas of growth that we saw identified that students in grades 1, 2, and 3 scored below the district average. It also identified that American Indian, Alaskan Native students, African American students, Hispanic students, and white students also scored below the district average. English learners, students with 504 plans, homeless students, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and special education students, those subgroups also scored below the district average. The results summary shows a narrative of the summary findings also. The next area we'll be looking at are grades. So pass marks are class grades earned by NHUSD students at the end of official grading periods. For middle and elementary school, there are 3 trimesters that end in November, February, and May. For high school grades 9 through 12, there are 2 semesters ending in December and May. At the elementary level, the data presented will look at reading, mathematics, and writing, while at secondary, we'll look at English language arts, mathematics, social science, and science. At the secondary level, the data are where students earn traditional letter grades, A, B, C, D, and F, and at the elementary level, they use a 4-point grading system. So we'll start by looking at elementary. At the elementary in the fall trimester, the students earned who achieved a 3 or above, that's proficiency or mastery. 56% of students in reading earned that proficiency or mastery. For mathematics, that percentage was 59%. And in writing, that percentage was 45%. All marks showed an increase from the fall of 2021. Moving on to secondary. The percentage of New Haven secondary students who achieved a C or above in language arts was 81%. In mathematics, that percentage was 76%. In social science, that percentage was 82%. And in science, that percentage was 80%. So the dashboard accessible through these links provide more detailed information about our students' marks performance by grade level, ethnicity, and subgroup. The results summary links will take you to a narrative summary of findings related to elementary marks, respectively. So the next area we'll look towards is credits towards graduation, which visualizes credits of high school students from all sites offering high school diploma programs. James Logan High School requires 220 credits for graduation, while County Paradise High School and Dakota High School for Independent Study require 190 credits for graduation. So the dashboard visualizes our students' progress according to 5 thresholds. The first one are credits required that students have completed the students required for graduation, and that's identified by green. Now, I want to clarify that doesn't mean students are ready to graduate. Students may need, for example, a English course, but they have the 220 credits or more that students may need an ethnic studies course still to graduate. But again, they have the credits required, which is generally a hurdle for students. So green may indicate that students have the credits, but not necessarily have finished all the graduation requirements. So that would be the green. In blue, we have that students are on target for graduation and that they can graduate without any additional courses outside of their schedule. In yellow, we have students who are mildly lacking credits depending on where students are in their schooling. It means that students may need 1 or 2 additional remediation options to earn credits. In orange, we have students moderately lacking in credits, and that means that students will need to seek multiple opportunities to earn additional credits to graduate. And in red, that means the students are severely lacking in credits, and that means it's very unlikely for students to graduate. So the overall percentage of New Haven students who have completed or are on track to completing the credits required to graduate at the end of semester 1 was 85% from all sites. The dashboard provides further in-depth data. It allowed us to identify the following areas for growth. It helped us identify that American Indian, Alaska Native students, African American students, Hispanic students, and Pacific Islander students are below the district average for students who are on track with course credit for graduation. It also helped us identify that English learners, foster youth, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students are below the district average for students who are on track with course credit for graduation.
Okay, does the board, anybody on the board have any questions or comments for staff? Yes.
So thank you for all this wonderful work you did. It really is illuminating. As per usual, the schools in my area, interesting issue here area are scoring lower than the rest of the district, especially the elementary schools such as City Crest, Cyrils, and Emmanuel. So this is a trend that's been going on for a long time. And I'm just wondering, how are we looking at that? How are we planning to get those schools up to par with meeting the standards and catching up to the rest of the district? And you don't have to have a big answer to every problem now. Obviously, socioeconomic status has a big thing to do with it, and these are more disadvantaged communities. But I just am curious, what are we doing about it? Or how are we planning to do something?
And you're right, it's a big answer to it, it's a very short question. One of the things that we have is our Title I dollars. And I'm familiar with that as a program I supervise, and students from schools with the highest free and reduced lunch population get more dollars per student. And so those Title I dollars are specifically intended to work to bring students up to grade level standards. And, school site council have a lot of discretion in how they use those. So, again, that is one of the things that we're doing. It's a big answer, and if necessary, somebody else can go there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just jump in. I mean, this is it's not John and Rania's job to really break the data down and present it. This is an issue that's rooted in decades of problem that goes far beyond New Haven in terms of the populations of students that are below other populations of students. So it's something that we look at both with individual schools, with individual subgroups, and also across our schools to try to provide supports. Again, that's we could go there. We could talk about this for quite a while. So I don't know where you want to go with it, but it is not the purpose of the presentation is to illuminate those areas or can better fine tune supports to work with the student populations that are really performing lower than others, if that makes some sense. And it's not just, we don't just leave the schools on their own. We spend, particularly during our leadership academies, have a considerable amount of time talking about ways in which we can address this issue.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, Vice President Kumar.
Thank you. Thank you for this. This is really interesting. I have a quick question. So I noticed that and I heard from you that there has been an improvement in our scores from last fall. I was curious if this has been a trend over the past few years, or has this increase been only over the last year?
I don't know if we looked at it, kind of previous, again, last year was the return to normal, and it was a return to abnormal, frankly, and so, we've been a couple of years without that data, and we actually just got this, these areas analytics part too, so, we haven't really looked at that previously. That's something.
Side of that, but really, it's almost a pre-COVID, post-COVID thing, and everything pre-COVID. There's really no. It's not even an apples to orange comparison. In a lot of ways, it's more like a apple and a carrot. We kind of compare here in terms of the pre-COVID world and what we have now. And really, this is the data you're seeing is really the only somewhat accurate data we've had to work with in the past 3 years. So it's almost like a full reset moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, one question that I have is specifically around the targeted area of chronic absenteeism. I know the data that we looked at right now is colored differently because it was a extenuating circumstance over the last couple of years. So it was red everywhere. So again, I have heard on, in speaking with teachers and staff members, that there might be something that we might want to look at in terms of the way that Aries handles absences. There was a point where back in the old system, staff had the ability to fix their own attendance within, I think it was 48 hours or something like that. And with the new system with Aries, the teachers don't necessarily have that same flexibility. I don't know all the details about that, but I did want to raise it to your radar. That would be something that we would really want to look at because, if we're not able to square away our accurate attendance, that will have a worse effect on it than, we just need to make sure the data and the systems that are there to support it are accessible and useful to our staff. Okay. Anything else? All right, great. Seeing that, thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, next, moving on to 9.3, we will get a presentation on the development of the district's home to school transportation plan.
Good evening, President. This year, President Rivera, President Thompson, and trustees. So Annette Telvin, I am your Chief Business Officer. I touched on this at the last budget update that I provided, in addition to the January proposal by the governor. Tonight, for this item, I will be providing more information with regards to this funding opportunity from the state. So these assembly bills actually provided over $630 million that would help agencies like us up to a certain percentage of our prior year expenses that are related to transportation. That's actually how the code is written. The guidance in terms of what we need to do moving forward are provided there. Those are actually links that you can peruse in your spare time. But again, this is a funding opportunity from the state that could help us up to a certain level in terms of expanding our transportation services. So given the way the code is written, there is a formula which is up to 60% of a school agency, which is like us, prior year expenses net of the add-on that's currently coming in terms of the LCFF, and that is the amount that we would be eligible for. To us, that's about 1.1 million, basing it on current or the latest information with regards to our expenditure estimates. So that's exciting news for us. 1.1 million is not, a small amount. However, we are kind of slowing down our excitement, even though that is a significant amount of money. In the whole scheme of the services and the cost of providing the service, that will not go a very long way. However, we're not going to let that stop us, because we still need to get in line so that we can be lined up to receive this money. When I talk about kind of slowing down and tempering our excitement, there are different challenges. Again, it's not going to be fully funded by the state. We do not have current infrastructure in terms of home to school transportation. We don't have the buses. We're having a hard enough time hiring drivers of our own with the current service level that we have. So that being said, we're not going to let that stop us from lining up to get some of the 1.1 million or the maximum that we could get. And in order to do that, what do we need to do is to develop a plan. This is actually written in code. In order for us to be eligible for that funding level, we need to have a plan. And that plan has some strings attached to it. Before we get into the detail of the plan, I'd like to be able to provide some numbers in terms of what do we currently provide or what do we currently offer to our students or to our families. So as you can see there, we currently provide transportation services to our special needs population. Those are driven by their individualized educational plan or IEP. Not all of the families and not all of the students who are eligible actually take it. We actually have, as you can see on the board, some who decline that service. Of the 339, some are actually taking busing service, and some are actually taking it in terms of parent mileage reimbursement. In terms of what's budgeted for the current year, we are looking at 2.9 million in terms of expenses that are all relevant to transportation services. In terms of our homeless youth, we actually do also provide certain programs and certain support systems. As you can see there, between transit passes and zipper cards, we have approximately about 100 that we have those in the system currently. Some of those are funded through Title I, some are funded through some grants that UCSD receives, and some of them are actually funded by the local transit system or the local transit system. So now let's talk about the plan that we all need in order to line up for the money. As you can see there, logistically, there are things that we need to do by a certain date. And in terms of the process in developing that plan, we need to engage. It's important for us to engage our partners and stakeholders in the community. And I listed who those are, who could be involved in that process. The first funding level for us, like I said, is due to be needs to be adopted by April 1st by this governing board. Now that is going to be a living document. Every year, we need to revisit that and we need to revise it accordingly. And that's a requirement also in terms of the code. These are the elements of the plan or the elements that need to be had in the plan. As you can see, it does not really preclude other grade levels, but it does require that agencies prioritize certain group of population, which is our grades TK through 6, and those who are disadvantaged financially or economically. We also would need to spell out in the plan the kind of services that we would offer to students with disabilities and those who are homeless as defined by McKinney-Vento. And our unduplicated pupil count also for the available services without charge. That's important. We cannot charge a single penny to any of these students. The code actually does allow certain things explicitly that is spelled out. As an example, we could provide those transportation TK through 6 inclusive, so we can combine them in a bus. We could also provide no-cost transit passes, which we're already doing in different areas. So there is a template being circulated. I'd like to. And it really essentially provides an area for us to be able to respond to what the code is asking for. I wanted to provide a glimpse of what the template looks like. Okay, while we are figuring that out. It's okay to go back to this institution. That's the link for those of you who would like to take a look at it. Okay, so potential options of what we could use with these funds. Should we pass the first test, which is have a board adopted plan by April 1st? We've met with some of our partners and stakeholders, and we've received some of those ideas, which I threw in this page. I'm not going to read all of them, but as you can see, there had been some discussions already on what we could do, some options that we could consider. The one thing we know we can't do is build an infrastructure in the first year. Not even the second year sounds realistic for that. Like I said, 1.1 million is not a small amount of money, but it's also not enough in terms of what we would like to do in terms of transportation services. But that doesn't mean we can't build something. You know, we can ramp up for however long that might take. And especially if this funding is actually ongoing. And every year it will always be based, a certain percentage will always be based on our prior year actual expenses. There are a few other engagement opportunities that could add to this that for us to be able to explore. And I listed them here. Of course, the first 3, we've already held those. We thank our partners with CSBA and NHTA to have given us the opportunity to share this information with them. We got some good feedback also from the President's Advisory Council. Tonight, as you can see, we are presenting some information on this. We are putting together an online survey. Actually, I had planned on making it live tomorrow. But we also have an active survey right now, so we probably, just to kind of avoid survey fatigue, we probably would go live with this on Monday. That way we're not running both surveys at the same time. We have upcoming meetings that would again give the opportunity to our community. These are open to the public. We have our Budget Finance Committee meeting. That's the old name. I just caught that. Sorry about that. We do have a new name for that committee. And we have a meeting of our special education parents. We also have a board study session. So we are mobilizing as fast as we can and providing information as soon as it's available so that we can be able to go through this process and involve, more voices and more input. Leading, of course, to the adoption on March 7th. And I believe that's the end of my presentation, and I will answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay, I've got some. Okay, so. Just so you know where my lens is coming, and so I'm gonna go back all the way out to 2008, and so if everybody remembers that New Haven used to have a fully comprehensive busing program. And then the financial crisis of 2008 came and a lot of adjustments were made. Comprehensive busing was off the table, as well as the closing of Bernard White Middle School. And if anybody in the community remembers, one of the big concerns from the community was getting students who live in the Dakota neighborhood to CMS, because they went from having a school that was just a few blocks down from the heart of Dakota, 6th or something like that, to quite a ways. So from the lens that I would like to, the type of direction that I would like to do at this take is, how do we, with our equity lens, figure out how best to serve the students who were disadvantaged from the closing of Bernard White Middle School? And since we're probably not going to be entertaining the notion of reopening that school as a comprehensive middle school anytime soon, maybe there are some things that we can do just comprehensively to maybe focus the area, especially since we're talking about, since some of the parameters that are required are to focus on socioeconomically disadvantaged populations. So that would be something that, as we're talking about the opportunities for input, some of the forums we might want to consider also reaching out to specifically are the communities and populations that were previously part of those schools of the Bernard White Middle School program. I just want to bring that out as being something that we should think about. I have a bunch of other kind of in the weeds questions that I'm not going to get to right now, but because those had to do with bus routes and things like that. But do you happen to have any idea? I mean, I know this may not be for the April plan, because as you mentioned, this is going to be a living document, and so we're going to have to figure out maybe some of the bigger swings for the farther fences, maybe in the following plan. But one thing that would be really helpful to understand how much a route actually costs. So we've got $1.1 million to work with. Like, is that 2 bus routes? If we created a loop in that particular area, we don't have enough numbers to really know what that actually equates to. So that would be something that I would want to look at as well. And one question that I didn't get to ask before that I just thought of during your presentation was, if the $1.1 million is a function of the 2.7 that we used previously, does that mean that if we spend more this year, that we get more next year? Does it work that way?
If we spend 1.1 on top of the normal 2.7, we will get 60% of those two numbers together. So the more we spend, that 60% grows.
Okay, so it's like a matching.
Yeah. Well, kind of 60%.
60%. Okay, not matching, but 60%. Okay. Let me see if I have any other questions, because right now, all you need is the board's general direction to get us to a plan adoption. You cited in your presentation that you're seeking March 7th. But according to the Ed Code, we have until April. Is there any reason why we're making it that aggressive in terms of timing? Don't spend a little bit more time.
We have 2 board meetings that are scheduled for March, and that is the board meeting that I would have room in order to put that agenda.
Okay, got it. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think I have my questions answered, but the ones at this level, but we can talk about the more granular ones later as a part of the process.
Well, as a closing, I wanted to get back on what you're saying. When we started getting this information, we mobilized and wanted to cast as wide net as possible with regards to that engagement process.
Yeah.
And that way we can reach throughout, because again, we need to pass the first test first. We just have something adopted by you first, and then we can get the first set of money. But it's gonna be a living document, and we'll have a lot of chance and opportunity to really dive deeper into our community in terms of the needs of the different population. Yes.
Okay, great. All right, any further questions? Oh, yes. Trustee Brett.
In that slide of elementary, students pay TK to 6. So is this like that only for TK to 6 or all grade level?
Actually, it does not include any grade levels. It's just that the code requires us to prioritize grades TK through 6 and are also in the lower income bracket. So we wanted to focus the resources to that population, but it doesn't, it does not say only to it does not limit it to just those grade levels.
Thank you.
Trustee Gonzalez.
I just want to piggyback on President Neaton's point on the Dakota community and the chronic absentees, the closing of the Menard White and their commute all the way to Cesar Chavez. You know, the data is there, and we can see that they have trouble getting across town, and there needs to be just an emphasis on that, and just hopefully there's a better plan to make that happen for transportation.
Yes, noted. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to, let's see. Okay, so now I'd like to call, actually, let's see here. Moving on to 10.1. I would now like to convene a public hearing to receive public testimony regarding the plan development for home to school transportation. Speakers will be given 2 minutes to make any comments in this matter only. Are there any speakers?
You don't have any booth or any speakers on Zoom? No speakers.
Okay, then this hearing is now closed. Okay, information items 11.1, items from the board and superintendent. Do we want to start with our school, with our superintendent?
Yeah. So basically just a few updates, I guess, regarding recent events going on. We have the Logan Rory event, which was led by the Jolly Club, and it was held on February 11th. So it has been a tradition, but we didn't do it because of COVID last year and the year previous to that. So it was good to like see a lot of the community had a great time and like have this cultural event and so on. We also had the multicultural fair 2 weeks back, where the clubs sell food. I know Trustee Rocky and Kumar went to that, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you for coming and interacting with the student walk team that you serve. And then other than that, our winter sports are wrapping up, and a lot of our programs are succeeding in competitions. So 2 of our girls wrestlers were placed first in the NCS tournament and are going to compete in state. They also, so the whole team also won the NCS championships with many other placers. We also had the boys wrestling team bring back 4 medals. Our girls wrestling team is playing in the NCS Division 1 semifinals as we speak right now against Granada. And then the forensics team, you guys made at the celebration pool, they went to a Harvard national tournament this weekend, and they had finalists there as well. Speaking of like the Lumina Hate campaign, we did kindness grant. So February 7th was National Random Act of Kindness Day. So I am like leadership partner with Random Acts of Kindness, but then we made like 40,000 grants for the whole student body as part of the Eliminate Hate campaign as well. So we've had them out during second period and got a lot of positive feedback, especially due to the recent racist graffiti or statements, which have caused many students to be like scared coming to school. So I know admin and everyone is like reporting these and doing your best to address them, but I think it is also like reporting to the challenges is excessive. And then some other upcoming events for leadership, you're working on Skit, which is like musical production, and it's showcased the week of March 27th during lunch. So we have a designated stage for each classes. So if you want to do all this together on March 31st, that's also like our night rally kind of, that's where all the skits will be presented. So if you guys can, please come to that. And then other than that, I just want to take small difference as Black History Month and offer my condolences to the supervisor. Thank you.
Trustee Malik.
Thank you. As President Angeles did say, Brigham, we all attended the Al Costa breakfast. And we were one of the very few school districts that had the entire board in it. So I was very proud of us for that. And I really enjoyed networking with teachers unions from all across Contra Costa and Alameda County, as well as other school board members, and hearing a very inspiring speech by Senator Aisha Wahab, our new state senator. And so that was wonderful. And I just want to say thank you for making sure to invite us and remind us to come to that breakfast. I also held a coffee with the trustee this past Saturday, and the next one will be on March 11th at 9 a.m. at the Starbucks on Mission in Tamarack. So please watch my social media for updates on that. And I just want to mention the passing of Supervisor Richard Baye. He was a great mentor to me and a great man, obviously, did so much for our community. And I just want to offer my condolences to his family and recognize that there's a big hole in Union City right now. That's it.
Okay, Trustee Rebecca.
So, again, I do like to thank, for the breakfast. It was really nice meeting everyone, and it's a great experience. Thank you. And, the multicultural event and the ASD event, that was organized at Logan was, fun to see children, the music chair and tug of war was, and all those, tables and the excitement was wonderful to see that. And I also attended the Dakota School of Independent Studies planting event and took a few things home. It was and in the ROP breakfast, there's a lot to learn, a lot to see. That was very, really excited about that. And the Latin tribe that was done at Logan High School for Turkish earthquake, that was enormous. That was a lot of stuff was being sent. It was really impressive. Thank you.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Yeah, definitely, the Al Costa, CPA, school board event, breakfast event was, the highlight. In the last couple of weeks, it's great to see, my CPA folks there. Felt like, state council again, that's when we operate, early breakfast hours like that. Yeah, I'm hoping we can close out. Mr. Richard Baye, he was, his passing, big surprise, to us. He was one of the first politicians to endorse me, to meet with me, and I know him that he's a politician, but he doesn't look a politician, but really his baby was recycling, him opening that up. And he graduated with my mom, 68, And my uncle, really real close friend of my uncle, but here's his senior picture. 1968 when he graduated, so. Just a huge loss, and I really wish I got to know him better. But at the end of his life, I did get to meet with him almost once a month though, so that was good. Just one-on-ones and getting to know him, so looking forward to his service this Saturday. It's open up to anyone who just got to RSVP out there. So that's it.
Very interesting.
You. I wanted to start with a shout out to our ASB. We were at the Multicultural Fair Week and it was really amazing. It was great to see our student leadership. So thank you for all the good work. I wanted to thank President Joe Angeles for having us over as a new trustee. It was an invaluable experience. So thank you for inviting us to that. And then like Trustee Rafi mentioned, Trustee Rafi and ex-President Nishihara was also at the Mission Valley ROP. It was really nice to see all their programs and I wanted to sign up for their classes. They wanted us to share this information tomorrow, the 22nd from 6:30 to 8 p.m. They actually have an open house and they're going to have a showcase of all their programs. We do offer their classes through our high school, so it's a great opportunity for anyone to go check them out. I highly recommend that. And last but not the least, I have a marker calendar. April 22nd is New Haven Day, and Superintendent Thompson and his team have been working really hard. This is a celebration of all things New Haven. I know my kids are across 3 schools and they've started rehearsing for New Haven Day. So the excitement is all around. All our schools will be showcasing all their programs, and it's just a fun event for the community to come together. So I hope to see all of you there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent Thompson.
Yeah, the New Haven Day is going to be fun. We even were trustee Kamar and I were trying to walk a 5K route the other day to figure out where the 5K fun was going to go. So lots to look forward to on that day, the 22nd of April. News on the fentanyl front. It's good news. Rarely are those words ever put in the same sentence, but our staff has been going through training to administer Narcan or Naloxone. So that is, we have the Naloxone, we have the training underway, and we'll soon be that readily available at our sites for use if needed. Hopefully, we never need it. So that's some good news there. As student trustee Tom pointed out, it's been a good week for our students at Logan as well, with both forensics, sports. In fact, our girls basketball team is playing right now, and could move on if they win. They play Friday. Also, later this week, once a year, I give out an award. It's called the Superintendent's Honor Roll for students that have maintained a 4.0 GPA or above, and that event takes place this Friday. So the number, I sign every one of the certificates individually, and I have writer's cramp still, because there's so many students that are really doing well at Logan. So fortunately that all of these positive things really are it's good to remember them when we see bad things such as like the hate statements or graffiti that we had that are really carried out by, in this case, it looks like one person. So we can't let that undermine all of the great things that are going on. And as you heard from student trustee Khan, there's a lot that we're doing with our eliminate hate focus this year to try to really counteract that type of negativity. And with that, I think you can't say enough about Richard Baye. He was one of the first people I met when I was hired here, and it became very obvious early on, a huge friend of the district, big boss of the district. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to recognize the passing of Richard Baye. You can't get involved in anything in the city and not have his fingerprints on it. When I first started with the foundation, the New Haven Schools Foundation in 2015, he was a big supporter of that. He always had a scholarship going through the foundation, and he also helped to get the nonprofit that I helped to co-found off the ground through the supervisor's office as well. He's always been a big supporter of important things in the community. always ready and willing to roll the sleeves. And I will be there on the 25th with my wife, to celebrate life. You already mentioned, you all mentioned the Costa and the ROP breakfast. I will say for New Haven Day, I'm going to attempt to run a 5K. I'm going to attempt to finish. I'm not gonna worry about the time, I just want to finish, so I'm having fun there. Okay, fun in quotes. All right, I did want to bring one thing up, and I did in my one-on-one with Superintendent Thompson, I did bring it up, giving him the heads up that I will talk about today. One of the things that is that has been trending over the last 6 months, and I really came to the head over the last couple of weeks, month, has been ChatGPT. And its effect on student learning, and more importantly, students on how teachers teach. And so I have my own personal opinion on it. But one of the things that I would like to do, and I am going to ask the board during our consensus item to have our district and our staff and our teachers and our students and our families work together so that we can develop a position on ChatGPT and its relationship to pedagogy, as well as homework policies, assessments and things like that. It's not going away anytime soon, so we should probably develop an informed position and perspective on it, so that would probably help drive forward policy. And who knows, I haven't heard anything coming in from the state, state school board on any type of leadership on this. So perhaps it could be one of the first to develop a position on it in conjunction with our teachers and our staff. So that's something that I'll be bringing up in consensus. And there's probably a few other things I can mention, but I'm going to keep it short. So thanks, that's it. All right, moving on to 12.1. Report out from the Budget and Finance Committee. Who would like to report?
Our next meeting is February 27th. We haven't met yet, so
Okay,
nothing to report.
all right. 12.2, the report for the Communication and Advocacy Committee. President Kumar.
We had a meeting this month and we talked about enrollment trends, and I'm really happy to share that we have the smallest decline in enrollment over the past 10 years. And I think a huge part of that is because of our staff and teachers. So thank you for everything you do. We also discussed some ideas about informing parents in elementary schools about some of our packages and programs that we have in middle schools. So our staff is working on how we could achieve that. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 9th of March.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Vice President Kumar. Next is a report out for the Policy Review Committee.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez. And you will see that there are some policies, resolutions, and policies on our consent agenda. And there will be more, I believe, next month as well, that have already been approved by the Policy Review Committee. And so we had quite a few changes because of new laws and so forth, and are going to be the notes in here. Obviously, policy 3250 for transportation is being brought for consideration in light of the new transportation requirements for 23-24. And the big happy thing for me is that we, thanks to the hard work of staff and the policy committee and Ms. Stevens, we are starting to pilot consent education starting K through 12, and it will be in place for the 23-24 school year. And that is something that I'm very happy about and very proud of. I definitely cried at the meeting. So it's to protect our students and let them to know that their bodies are their own, and how to address if their boundaries are crossed. So it's really important, and very happy to report that we are working on that and piloting curriculum, age appropriate curriculum.
Thank you, trustee Mallory. Okay, we're gonna move on to 12.4 other committee reports. So this is everything from MPRP to SELPA to anybody else.
Selco will be in March, so I've not had a meeting yet, but MBROP, we have meeting coming next week. And last, trustee Kumar mentioned that, tomorrow is the, open house. And, forward to everyone there. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I have an update from the foundation. So lots of exciting things happening at the foundation. We have the Earth Day poster contest coming up. We just finalized the flyer this morning, so it should be out soon. This is open to students K through 8. So stay tuned for more information. We also have the 5K fun run / walk. And this, Superintendent Thompson mentioned, this is going to be fun. It's going to be around the Logan campus. So we get a nice view of Logan and it should be fun. So hope everyone can join us there. Our next meeting is February 27th.
All right, thank you. I think you put both fun and run in quotes. All right. Some people like running. Okay.
I have
Oh, I'm sorry.
for AXPA, the Alameda County School Board Association. Board members should have received an email from Lori, forwarding the invitation to our next meeting, which is Thursday, March 30th, 6 p.m. in person for pretty much the first time since COVID, at the Alameda County Office of Education in Hayward. And we will be having our special speaker will be the new Alameda County Office of Education Superintendent, Elise Castro. So please mark your calendars and check your emails for the link to RSVP. Thank you.
My apologies. Okay, moving on to 13.1. Yep. I would like to ask Vice President Kumar to read resolution 0322223.
Thank you, President Kushner. Whereas the purpose of National Women's History Month is to increase awareness and knowledge of women's involvement in history, and whereas in 1981, responding to the growing popularity of women's history celebrations, Congress passed a resolution making Women's History Week a national observance. And whereas in 1987, the National Women's History Project petitioned Congress to expand the national celebration to include the entire month of March. And whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of the nation. And whereas transgender women and the LGBTQ community as a whole have been leaders in the fight for women's suffrage and allies leading the fight for equality in every aspect of our democracy. And whereas women have played a unique role through our history by providing the majority of the nation's volunteer labor force and were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in the country. And whereas women have been leaders in every major progressive social change movement, not only to secure their own right of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, and the modern civil rights movement, which attempt to create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas the history social science framework for California public schools, kindergarten through grade 12, states that the history of community, state, region, nation, and world reflect the experiences of men and women of different racial, religious, and ethnic groups, and that the study of this inclusive history be integrated at every grade level in the curriculum. Therefore, be it be resolved that the New Haven Unified School District supports the goals and ideals of National Women's History Month, And be it further resolved that the New Haven Unified School District recognizes and honors the women and organizations that have fought for and continue to promote the teaching of women's history.
Thank you, Vice President Kumar. May I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 032-2223, Women's History Month, March 2020.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so that's trustee Mallory and Vice President Kumar, secondly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Okay, may I have a motion and a second to approve the governance handbook 2023?
So moved. I second.
Trustee Mallory and then trustee Griffin. All discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay? Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Okay, 13.3, California School Board Association Delegate Assembly. I'd actually like to open the floor for discussion for nominations and or just the discussion of possibly a slate. Would anybody like to open up the discussion? Or create nominees?
I would like to go ahead and nominate the two incumbents, trustee Diane Jones and trustee Sarah Grotto.
Okay, we have a total of 3 that we can vote for. In addition to,
Well, I'd like to also, Angela Norman.
so it sounds as if we have a slate of 3 presently, which are Diane Jones, Sarah Prada, and Angela Norman. Are there any, okay, then I would like to make a motion in a second to elect Diane Jones, Angela Norman, and Sarah Prada to the California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly for 2023.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so that's trustee Mallory and Vice President Kumar. Okay, discussion. All right. Seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay. May I have a motion and a second to approve the executive assistant job description?
So moved. I second.
Okay, that's trustee Mallory and then trustee Buffet. Discussion. Okay, let's move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to 13.5, may I have a motion and a second to approve the assistant superintendent of teaching and learning contract for Ms. Stevens?
So moved. Second.
Okay, that's trustee Mallory and trustee Buffet. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. 13.6, may I have a motion and a second to expel student number 1?
So moved. Second.
Trustee Mallory, Vice President Kumar. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. May I have a motion and a second to accept the annual financial report for June 30th, 2022?
So moved.
Trustee Mallory and Vice President Kumar. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. And we have a motion and a second to accept the annual Measure M financial performance audit report, June 30th, 2022.
So moved.
Okay, trustee Mallory and trustee Buffet. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. All right, moving on to consent agenda items. Are there any items in consent that any member of the board would like to pull for separate voting? Okay, seeing none, I'd like a motion and a second to approve items 14.1 through 14.26.
So moved. I second.
Okay, so trustee Mallory and then trustee Buffet. Discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, 16.1. Okay, 15, we are skipping 15 because nothing was pulled from consent. Moving on to item 16, assessment of governance protocols and procedures. Would anybody like to have any comments? Yes, trustee Mallory.
Thank you, President Mr. Meetings are going very well. I just wanted to point out that items 13.5 and 13.6 pertains to student and staff issues. And that I believe that we should be doing a roll call vote in that case, since our student members are not supposed to vote on those.
Thanks for calling that to my attention. Appreciate that. Agreed. Okay, any further comments? Yes, trustee Gonzalez.
This is on assessment or the board?
Yes.
Maybe more of when we have a motion and a second, it should be consistent like we did last year.
Okay, you have for the routine motions.
For the routine.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. We should probably figure out who that is. Maybe we can figure that out either offline or you can look through the superintendent. Or if, since I guess it's on topic, it's on agenda. Does anybody want to it seems like trustee Mallory's been the mover. All right, who wants to be the seconder? Seems like. Okay, Vice President Kumar. So we'll do that moving forward, just to kind of on the routine things, we can just. Okay. Perfect. All right. Moving on to board consensus 17.1, board trustee requests. Does anybody on the board have any requests?
I have one.
Yes,
Thank you. So the requirement for community service for expulsions was waived because of COVID. I personally see a lot of value in having community service for students who are working through their expulsions. And I was hoping we could have a discussion on reinstating that and bringing that back in.
Okay, any questions from staff as to the request?
We probably put it as a discussion and an action item. We can do that. If there's consensus, we'll put it as an action item for the next board agenda.
Okay, anybody have any objections? I see general head nodding. Seems like a good idea. Okay, great, yeah, consensus. Anybody else have a consensus item? Okay, I've got one. I mentioned to it in my information item. Title of the request is ChatGPT exploration. And so the request is right now ChatGPT is a topic that is garnering a lot of attention and has the potential to change many aspects of how our staff teaches. While I think each board member may have their own individual opinion on the matter, I think the board could benefit by developing a professional and informed opinion, so it might be so to inform policy and procedures moving forward. The expected outcome is I would like to see the staff develop an informed perspective that may influence policy in response to tools like ChatGPT, because in 2 weeks it'll be something else. It's important to get perspectives from our teachers, our parents, and our students that may affect grading, homework, and instructional and other policies and practices. The outcome is probably a policy recommendation and or a policy brief, just something to help the board understand the positions of all of the main stakeholders, and I believe in terms of timeline and due date, I'm hoping there's nothing pressing on it right now, so you know, we don't know how long it's gonna take, but I think it's important that we get all the voices taken care of, or, I'm sorry, accounted for. So, I'd like your guidance on how long you think it would take. And if there's any questions. Well, first of all, does the board have any consensus? Oh, yes.
Yeah, just a quick summary. What is ChatGPT?
ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence engine that allows with striking accuracy to allow students to be able to enter in prompts. For example, using Bloom's taxonomy, apply it to a brave new world, right? And then you can put something like that in and it will come with a very, very kind of coherent answer that is kind of accurate, not always accurate, it's accurate enough. It could in many ways be seen as a form of cheating and or collaboration and or whatever. But and I said, it's still in its very early days. And at the same time, it's not going anywhere, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I'd like for us to maybe develop, and maybe part of the policy brief may be that, you know, the explanation of kind of what it is. So is there a board consensus for this family?
Maybe I can clarify,
Yeah.
just so, I mean, the reality is, we're actually in the process of doing this already and taking a look at how we're gonna react to it, but the baseline reality is our teachers are already dealing with this every single day, and all the way down to the elementary, the Trustee Gonzalez, you can expect to see if you assign a writing prompt in your class. I'd be surprised if somebody in your class didn't write this through ChatGPT. It's that prevalent already. And it is a pretty amazing tool, opportunity that's not going away. So we'll do something. We're trying to figure out how we're going to support our teachers with it. But the reality is our teachers are already figuring out how to use it as we're moving forward. We're kind of targeting, we are planning on hosting a professional development day. The day, the Friday before our teachers are returned. It'll be a voluntary day, but we'll have multiple strands throughout that day on different topics, some of which will be recorded for teachers that can't be present, but we're planning on having this as a professional development strand on that day or a topic. That's down the line. So that's kind of like our plan for the culmination of the work that we're starting now. I don't know where it's going to take us, so I'm hesitant to commit staff to a specific roadmap. I think what we can commit to is sharing regularly with the board where we're at in terms of here's what we found out, here's what we have, what our plan is moving forward. Maybe it's a policy recommendation, maybe it's not. Probably not, because it's a tool that our students and teachers are using. So how, just like with any other tool, our teachers are already figuring out how to use it, and we'll provide some guidance on it, but I don't know where that's going to take us. I think we can commit to giving regular updates on our progress about what we're doing, where we're going, and where it seems to be shaping itself up. But as we pointed out, President PR, there isn't even any guidance there's no guidance. So districts are figuring it out on the fly. Some districts are a little further along than others, but it's going to be an interesting journey. It's here. We need to figure out how to use it and what to do with it. So I think how does this sound? We'll commit to sharing with the board regularly through updates where we're at and figuring out this process and how we're reacting and how there may be some interplay with the board and policy. Yeah,
I think that the biggest outcome that I would love to have is to make sure that we are offering support to our teachers so that they know what to do with it, like how best to understand it, how best to use it, or if there are other concerns like how we protect it, our students from it, or whatever the recommendation is. Just want to make sure that we're able to support our teachers.
Yes, it's a great suggestion. It's something that I think I don't even think we need board consensus for that. We're already on it, and it's something that we'd be happy to report back to the board regularly to kind of where this is taking us.
Okay, great. So I didn't see anybody not able to support. Yes, Trustee Khan.
I was just like a comment about the. I know, like, I was reading some article and it was talking about like how some like places in the country and they have to be used by for whatever. But then, also, so I don't know if it's true, I'm not trying it, but I also know that Canvas, when you turn in assignments, like, there's a way that you can like, check pages and like, it checks it for you. Kind of.
Yeah.
The only difference is this isn't plagiarizing anything.
Yeah.
It's original content.
I think it takes the content, like it searches like what you know, like the font, and then like it gathers like all the data.
Yeah, according to what I've read, there actually are some, like, from the company that actually created ChatGPT, there are some algorithms they could run on the output to generally identify whether or not this thing was written by AI or not. So, you know, it's not exactly Turnitin. I think Turnitin has some serious flaws personally. But, you know, this wouldn't show up in Turnitin because Turnitin is looking for actual, you know, actual plagiarism. This is actually it. So, but yeah, thanks. Okay. Any other, okay, so I think you've got everything you need from us.
I think so. It's gonna be an interesting journey.
Oh,
Okay, yes.
I just wanna. You know, Chat GPT is one application, so if we do end up making policies, we should generalize it, you know, AI based text generation. Apps or whatnot, because the technology is only going to get more sophisticated. So to make sure that we're ready to keep up with that.
We absolutely narrow this. ChatGPT is just the latest version of it. Okay. Seeing no further consensus items, I would like to adjourn this meeting in memory and honor of late Supervisor Richard Lanning. Thank you.